So just a quick video today, nothing too exciting. What we're going to be doing is just basically reflowing this. So that is, and also this, sorry, is the bulb failure unit, a bulb failure module from my XJ40. It's one of the front ones. So what I'm going to be concentrating on are the main connector pins, as they're the ones that sort of do typically tend to break. So they actually look okay, but there's probably hairline fractures on them, because one of the issues that we had was that the lights were sort of a little bit dimmer on one side than the other, and that can be a symptom of that particular issue. So let's get ourselves zoomed in on the action, and we'll then get started. So we'll start off with these pins here, nicely zoomed into those. There we go. So we're going to start off with these ones. Also, this gives me a chance to have a close look at them. This one does seem to have a bit of a breakage in the solder itself, so that's going to be quite telling. There we go. In fact, they all seem to be sort of breaking up slightly, not huge amounts, but just sort of, you know, enough that it would cause us a problem. There we go. So this one isn't actually going back into the car. I'm going to be keeping this one as a spare, because they're always useful to have around as spares if you want to, or if you need to troubleshoot any issues. So we'll need to give this one a bit of a clean before we start resoldering these. As you can see, there's a bit of crap everywhere, or bits of solder. Now, I had something that was ideal for this particular job, and oh, there it is. There we go. We'll use that. Ideal for the job. This disgusting toothbrush that I've just realised, let's put a load of grease onto there. I'll have to clean that up properly in a minute. Not sure what I was using that toothbrush for previously. I obviously need to get another toothbrush now, because that one seems to have become disgustingly stained with stuff. So let's just give this a quick clean. There we go. And get that out. A bit of a wiperoo. There we are, that's the worst of it. Right, where are we? Oh yeah, one more. And there we go. That's there and there. There we go. So we'll just give that a bit of a clean up. Probably use a bit more of a targeted spray for this one. There we go. I've actually exhausted my supply there, but that was running low anyway. So there's a good incentive to get some more. For this one over here, we can just use some isopropyl, 99% isopropyl cleaner. But that is looking nice and clean. So let's touch up the joints, use the solder, get started on this one. Perfect. Yeah, that's fine. So let's do this next one. Superb. Touch up that first one again, I think, so it goes around a bit more to the other side as well, so I'll just get a full coverage. There we are. Smashing. There we go. There we are. The rest of them are coming along nicely. Something very satisfying about this. It's very peaceful, pleasant activity. There we go. Yeah, they all look all right. Looking good. There's no joins over the tracks. There we go. Yeah, that's fine. There wasn't so much a join between those two. It was just a little closer than I would have liked, to be honest with you. Right, so that's that side done. So we'll just move these ones into shot. So we've got these ones here we're going to be dealing with next. So we'll get those underway. So similar story here. They're not so much cracked or anything, but they're beginning to almost sort of like break away at the base, which is quite interesting. And joints themselves are quite sort of, you could almost say they're quite dry because they're almost crumbling under the heat of the soldering iron. So yeah, they are dry jointed, and they're not going to be giving as good a connection as a fresh joint would. Now, a lot of people do deride these bulb failure modules because they did prove to be a little bit unreliable in service and were the cause of a number of sort of various issues with the XJ40 bulb failure modules, iffy bulb failure modules, bulb relay units being one of them. But the actual construction quality is surprisingly good. I mean, they are well built, they use good quality components, and they're really not all that bad. I mean, you know, you've got to sort of bear in mind the one I'm working on here is 35 years old, probably. May even be slightly older, to be honest with you. And it survived this long, so can't be doing too badly. Although in fairness, a lot of them did tend to sort of exhibit their various issues whilst the car was still fairly young. So because mine hasn't had a huge amount of use over the years, the problems that I'm experiencing or have experienced now I would have experienced when the car was a lot newer. So just actually noticed that I need to push some of these pins back in because they are making their way outwards, as you can see. But that does give me the excuse to be able to fully clean the area down, which is good. And some of these seem to be differing lengths anyway. That means I can really get in there and just make sure that these pads are as clean as possible. There we go. So just need to see if I can get this ow, ow. I think that should do. That one's a bit long, so there we go. So that's what we've got now. I'll just show you. So I just had to put these onto a hard surface and then just push them back again so that they're now equal. And if I put them back into the board and then put the board back up again, you can see now that they are indeed pretty equal. What I do need to do is to get something underneath there, just to hold them in place. And this random shelf bracket is the ideal thing for the job. There we go. Right, let's get those soldered back in. So once you get one, you pretty much get it set in place. What you could do is you could do this one and then do this one this end. Oops, sorry, just do that so you can see it still. And then you absolutely know that it's not going to move any further. just finish off these other ones. So it is a good idea to clean the joints with some kind of alcohol, isopropyl, etc. Because then you get rid of anything that could cause problems if you're actually soldering. So anything that would sort of potentially break the seal and not allow the solder to adhere to the pad. So yeah, it's always a good idea to give it a bit of a clean up. So that is those ones sorted out. There is no joins between the tracks, got all sorted at this end as well. And just a quick cursory glance at the other joints seems to suggest that they're all okay. So we can move this one out of the way. So this is the main relay board, and then you have this board, which I'll just zoom out so you can actually see it. So this board is almost like the controller board, because you do have some sort of chips on here which would be used for controlling purposes. For example, a good example, this one is a 555 timer circuit. So that would be used for some kind of timer function, obviously, because that's exactly what a 555 chip does. It is a timer chip. So that's going to be there for some kind of timer function. I would assume that is some kind of power output transistor or ballast of some description, judging by the fact that it's quite a meaty MOSFET of some description. And then you've got a 556 there, which I don't know what that does. I would imagine it's probably related to the 555. And then you've got this Texas Instruments LM2901N. So it's an LBL-LM2901N. Then you've got a series of diodes, a series of resistors, and obviously the connectors to the main board. So when you actually look at the main board, all of the voltage and current actually goes into the main board. It looks like this one is acting as a control rather than dealing with any of sort of the high voltages that not high voltage, it's more high current that you get on the other board. So this one really is under a lot less stress. So, but obviously it's still going to be open to vibrations and everything else like the other one. So we're going to focus on the connectors again. So we'll just zoom in and we'll start attacking our first lot of joints. And almost immediately I can see a crack. So this one here is cracked almost in a circle around the actual pin itself. So that will cause us problems. Get rid of that muck. So we'll resolder that one now. There we go. Yeah, so almost immediately you've got solder joint issues on one of them anyway. I think the other ones don't look too bad. But we resolder them as we go along, so I'm going to do them each in turn, and that way we don't risk dislodging the whole connector. So these ones actually have a lot thinner pins, so the other ones were quite chunky. These ones are a lot thinner, and more delicate, so I just need to be a little bit more careful with them. And that's also why I'm taking this approach to do them one at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, now 5. There we are. A little blob of solder onto this one. There we go. Now number 6. Number 7. Number 8. And done. Perfect. There we are. So what we need to do now is go and focus on the other side. So just bring that over into shot. And exactly the same job on this side. Probably exactly the same modus operandi as well. It's probably the wrong phrase to use because it's not a modus operandi, it's a particular method I'm using for this particular board. So it would be more of a method than my standard mode of operation. There we go. And actually you can see all of these joints have got minuscule cracks around them as well. What I'll do a second is I'll zoom in and I'll see if the camera actually picks up those cracks. So if I go in, just position this, it's quite possible that you can see them there. So if you see those sort of like semicircle type patterns on, certainly on these two joints here, that's your cracks. So that is actually your cracked solder joints. And you'll notice when I apply heat to one of them, like so, the cracks almost disappear. So what we'll do is we'll do this one. There we go. Then finish off with this one. So you might actually see, if I apply there, yeah, you can see it. It's almost like it's sort of a hairline fracture, and the solder moves separately in both parts, which is quite interesting actually. But that is the main problem, that these circuits actually suffer. It's dry joints around those connectors, and that was sort of the main killer back in the day for these boards. So typically a Jaguar dealer would just swap them out. They wouldn't bother troubleshooting. They would swap them out and then probably send them back whence they came. Now this one is an earlier one. So you've got the metal cover and the plastic base. Later ones have sort of like a plastic arrangement where the board feeds into a plastic all-round shell. Apparently that is better for absorbing vibrations, which I suppose this isn't the best material for absorbing vibrations. But the later ones did improve on the weak points of the earlier ones. So yeah. So we'll just put this back together. There we go. So you've got that going into there, and we've got this one over here. That goes into there. There's sort of grommets fit in. Now I used to have hanging around a load of bulb failure modules for what they would call the styled headlight models. In other words, this is for a quad headlight version, and then you had a different bulb failure module on the fronts for the models that had the square headlights, so your Sovereigns, your Daimlers, etc. And the two were not interchangeable, and I'm going to be honest, I would love to see inside one of the square headlight ones to see what's actually different. I mean, are they really not interchangeable, or is it a case of they're missing a few relays, for example? So yeah, I would like to see inside one of those. I'd also like to see inside one for a car that was destined for the States. As on the stateside cars, you've got extra lamps for side marker lights, so obviously you would have potentially coming out of here extra cables. Now it is quite possible that the same bulb failure units are used for both regions, or for all regions. The only thing that differs is that some of these connectors are not connected on UK spec cars. So it is quite interesting to speculate. I'd love to get hold of some of the other ones, really just to see what they look like inside and see where they differ. So here we go. There we go. That's that. Then we've got this one, which just literally just goes like that and down. Then we've got that cover, which just goes on like so. And done. In fact, I may have actually answered my own question, because look at this. You've got, oh, not quite done. You've got on this one, you've actually got the front fog lights, which is exactly as I would expect. Now the front fog lights were an optional extra, and behind the bumpers on early XJ40s you've actually got connectors for the front fog lights. There's also in dash on the panel below the instruments, on the left hand side you've got the heated rear window and rear fog lights, and there's a blanking panel, and if you literally just take that blanking panel up, there's a switch, and that switch is for the front fog lights. So it's all switched through that, so they're all there. And then you've got side markers, currently blank on this one, so it is quite possible that it uses a separate module for federal spec cars, so in other words US spec cars. Anyway, there we go, that's one that can go back in the spares basket. And there we are. So if you have found this video interesting, don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, thanks for watching.